Hello, welcome to this DCS F A-18C tutorial video. Today we're going to be covering controls. So to access our controls, we'll hit Escape, go to Adjust Controls, and we'll see up here F A-18C Sim, and then a drop down. First we're going to cover need to have controls, and after that we'll cover nice to have controls. So the first need to have control, we'll go down to access commands. You can adjust these categories by dragging them. First need to have control is obviously our pitch. So you can click in here, move the cursor, or joystick rather, in the direction that we want it to be. So now we have it up pitch, and you would hit OK. If you want to adjust your control, we can click it, and then come down to this Axis Tune button. And here we can set our curvatures, dead zone, saturation. For my stick, I personally have a 15 for the curve, but you can adjust that to your liking. If it feels too snappy, you can increase the curve. If it feels too mushy, you can decrease the curve. After our pitch, we need our roll, also on our stick. If you have rudder pedals, go ahead and bind them here, or if you have a twist grip, you can bind that on there as well. The next thing we'll need to bind is our throttle designator controller, both horizontal and vertical axis. So on my throttle, I have a little analog joystick type control on the front of my throttle grip, and I have that on my X and Y. Axis tune, I have a curvature of 20 on both of these. On my rudder, I have a curvature of 25, dead zone of 3. But once again, all of these curves you can adjust to your likings. TDC, the throttle designator controller, I do recommend leaving at that curve of 20. Alright, next I have a dual separated throttle, so I can bind left and right engine thrust. If you don't, you can just bind the thrust up here. Important for thrust, do not put a curve on your thrust. And then if you have wheel brake controls, you can bind them here. If you don't have an axis for your wheel brakes and you try and bind it under wheel brake, you'll see you can't because we're in the axis command section. So if you wanted to bind that, you would go to the regular binds and then search wheel brake, and then you'll have a button for that. All right, we'll head over to the regular button commands. And the first need to have is our sensor control switch. I have this on a castle hat on the top of my stick. So forward, aft, left, right, and depress. This controls our currently selected display sensor, represented by a diamond on the pages. So on these displays, you'll see a diamond in the upper right corner of whatever display you have selected, which is done using our sensor control switch. Left for the left, right for the right, down for down, forward for up to our HUD. The next need to have control is our weapon release button. It's used for deploying our bombs and air-to-ground munitions. I have that on a button on my stick. Next need to have is gun trigger second detent. I have that on the trigger on my stick. It's used for firing our guns and air-to-air weapons. Next, we have undesignate/nose wheel steer switch. This is a pinky button on the back of my stick. This is used for air-to-air combat and for engaging our nose wheel steering and nose wheel steering high. The next keybind will be Autopilot/nose wheel steering disengage paddle switch. This is the paddle switch on the back of your stick if you have one. If not, bind it to another button you have available. The next thing we'll need is our trimmer. I have this on a hat switch on the top of my stick. Left for left, right for right. Push for descend, just forward. Pull back for climb. I have a depress on this switch that I set to takeoff trim button. This will set our plane's takeoff trim for our currently configured loadout. Not necessary, but if you have it on a hat switch that has a depress, go ahead and throw that on there. The next thing we'll need to bind is our selects. So we will go select AMRAM, select Sidewinder, gun, and Sparrow. We'll put this on a hat switch. I have it on my stick. I have it on the thumb hat switch to be exact. If you're looking for controls, you can always go into search and then type in what you're looking for. So we typed in select, everything with the word select in it comes up. So just scroll to there. I want to be more specific. Select AMRAM, there you go. All right, the next need to have, that's everything for the stick. I'm now moving to the throttle quadrant. We need raid/FLIR FOV select button. I have two buttons on the front of my throttle. This is the leftmost one. Next button we'll need is throttle designator controller depress. I have this on the button next to it on the front of my throttle, and also on the analog joystick depress that I talked about under access commands for the throttle designator controller. Next, we're going to need radar elevation control up and down. This will be used for changing our radar elevation slew. After that, we will need to bind dispense switch. I have this on a 5-way hat. Forward for chaff, aft for flares, up on that same hat I have ALQ ECM mode XMIT, and down on that hat I have REC. That's a 4-way hat, and that's all you have. That's all you need. If you have that on a 5-way hat, you can put your depress on dispense button, which will be used for emergency countermeasures. Next up is speed brake switch. We need to bind retract and extend. So this is 2 position. I have this on a little locking slider, but you can put this on a hat, whatever's convenient. Extend is back, retract is forward. After that, we need a cage/uncage button. This will be used for a variety of functions in the plane. Alright, those are all of the need to haves. Now these are the nice to haves. I have a COM menu switch, COM2 call radio menu bound. I have a probe control switch, extend and retract bound for aerial refueling. I have an arresting hook handle up and down bound for carrier landings. Landing gear control handle up and down for the landing gear. I have flaps, full, half, and auto bound to a three-way hat or a three-way switch. I have an eject button bound. Press that 3 times to eject. A respawn button for when you get shot down or eject. Air to ground and air to air buttons. An emergency jettison button. This button will jettison every single store on our plane. I have a master arm safe. I have both of these on a three-way switch in the up and middle position. On the down position on that three-way switch, I have the rearm and refueling window. I also have a keybind for communication menu. That way I don't have to hit the / key on my keyboard to open it. And a keybind to turn my dispenser switch to the on position if I don't want to click it in the cockpit on startup. I have a keybind for F1 cockpit view and F10 theater map view. Keybinds for heading switch left and right. Keybinds for course set switch left and right. And keybinds for selective jettison knob clockwise, counterclockwise, and selective jettison push button. These 3 will be used for controlling this knob down here, and that will jettison our stores. Finally, I have a keybind to toggle my labels. Those are all of the controls that you'll need to bind. If you want to, there is also an auto start and auto shutdown keybinds. You can either use your keyboard or I have them bound as well. That covers all of the adjust controls. Thanks for watching.